Well, hello and welcome. I've been off for a little bit, mainly because I've been on holiday, but I've also been a little bit ill. So I wanted to just dive on and do a little bit and see where we're up to with the Copper Monkey project. So let me dive over to code and we can get started. I think there was a little bit of an update that I'd done where I moved the repository over. So let's have a quick look at that. Once again, mic check, system check. Just let me know in the chat, please, if there's any kind of problems. So let's head over to code, shall we? So if we go into full mode, it should be a little bit easier to see. Let's have a look. Right, let's have a look at the project. Get stats, let's have a look. So one of the things I've been doing is I had a bit of a repository pattern that I was playing about with. I mean, it's nowhere near right, but it's a basics of a repository pattern that allows us to connect to a database and store some data, which for this is really all we need to do. We just need to get a model, DTO it up and save it. One of the problems I've been having as well is working out whether we should have a model for the Cobra commands and then a model, a DTO for want of a better word, for managing the database, or should we have separate ones with different parameters? And there'll even be another one once we hook up an API, which will have, the JSON attributes to it. So I've seen examples on the internet where people have got like they've got the models of data and they've got the models of the database attributes all within one type. And to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of that. So what I've been doing here is I've been creating the repos pattern and putting it into packages and just allowing us to be able to then access that to modify the database. So let's come out of that. It's not ready, it's not done. I don't even think it's working yet. So let's have a look at it, shall we? So repos pattern. We have got a, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit because I'm on a higher res monitor. So we're importing DynamoDB from the SDK, and I'm going to make heavy use of this SDK as we move over the projects. I've got a table name which will be pulled in from config eventually, and then we add a payment request, which is a bit nonsense at the moment because of course the add payment request is just creating a static payment, so that's going to be the same every single time. I'm just playing about. I want to use GUIDs for the request ID and the customer ID, even though that's not a GUID. However, GUIDs really aren't supported within the DynamoDB without creating a custom schema, and GUIDs within Go are a little bit not complicated, but a little bit of a pain in the ass because they're not part of the standard library. I believe you got to import a Google package and then use that, and that puts me off. For types like that, I would really love to have my concrete implementation. So what I'm doing is originally, if I look at the repository pattern, in fact, if I go to, let's have a look at the menu. Have I got it in history? Don't think I have. Just bear with me. README repository. There we go. What I was doing here is I was actually setting up the database in Docker, and I was actually using these aliases and then creating the table and just playing about with it, setting up the basic attributes and schema keys for caching and indexing. And then I was manually adding a payment to it and then scanning it, searching it, selecting it, whatever you want to call it. That's problematic because where does this script run? How is this created? Who manages this? Who's in control of this? I didn't like that idea. So what I want to do is actually get the actual setup of this. Why am I not jumping to definition? Come on, weird. There we go. Eventually. So response. Okay. So what I've got now is I actually want to um, do this within code. A lot of systems and models actually build the database and do the history and transition of the database in code so that it's committed to Git. For a small microservice-ish system that's in charge of its own destiny, aka it's in charge of its own database and structure, this is fine. In some cases, you would have the database managed by a data team, and that would be version controlled or whatever. But for this, we're just talking about some GUI data that's going to be held there, and eventually this is going to be pulled out into a data lake and managed. So for now, this is just dead simple. I'm just storing some data. Let's think about the complexities of this later on. So we've got things like the model that we want to save. And originally what I was doing was I was setting up attribute definitions for every one of our properties, but I quickly realized that you're not supposed to do that. So let's see where I was up to with this. This was designed to set up the database and then allow us to insert to the database. And then once I'm inserting them to the database, I would start actually passing in real data, real boy data, and actually probably pass in this model so that it can be populated correctly. So let's see what I win with that. So let's go and build this, shall I? Where we make build green, go. And I believe I was getting errors when I was doing this because I'm still trying to work out how to actually create the database itself. Okay, let's spin. Weird. Okay, there we go. I'm just trying to. I knew I had it in history, so instead of trying to type it out by hand, I just wanted to get it from history. So what I'm doing there is I am running this program, which is going to run the Cobra command to add client payment request. I'm going to pass in an amount just for giggles, and then that's going to connect. But what I've got is failure to communicate. See, sometimes Docker you just can't reach. So we have what we have here today, which is the way Docker wants it. Well, he gets it. I don't like it any more than you men. There we go. Switched VPNs and it caused all sorts of problems. So I've had to undo that. So hopefully now I can connect. No, that's Docker's running. Oh, I bet because I have it on a remove, which is safe. I think it's the best way. The container, when it runs, I've got it on an actual remove. Okay, 7 up. Yank it and then smack it in here. So I've got creating a Dynamo DB on this port and creating a local shared DB path, home Dynamo DB, and we're going to remove it once deleted. So once I run that, it should be okay. don't have a Dynamo local DB any folder anyway, so it should be fine. Okie dokie. So that's now running, I think. Let's set up these aliases. So this alias is allowing the AWS to actually connect to my local running Docker database, which is fun. Okay, then I should be able to select. And I think I've called the table something else, but I'm not even in a position to select from it yet. So that's right. But what I've done is I've changed the name to pending client payments request v1. That's, oh, oh. That's not what I want. Okie pokey. So that should come back that it doesn't exist. That's fine because it shouldn't. And if we now run this, hopefully it'll initialize the database and insert that record. And selecting from V1 should return some data or some sources. Right, that's pretty cool. Let's get me into the real world. There we go. So what did I have? Oh, have I just deleted my aliases now like an idiot? I have. Yeah. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. Read me. I gotta just pressed 5. Let's create my aliases again. I should be able to just V all this. Yank it. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's feed that in. Okie dokie. Let's now scan that table for V1. There we go. We've got clients. We've got John Connor. John Connor. It's actually Sarah Connor, isn't it? He says mainly. Sarah Connor. Yes. This is coolio. So what have I got to do now? Basically, I think what I'm doing is I'm going to wire this data up. So this is just basic, boring stuff, isn't it? This is just being able to pass in a parameter into this cheeky little monkey, which is going to be one of our payment payment requests. Payment request equals client payment request. Okay. So someone's calling this puppy, right? Jump to definitions, jump to declarations, show LSP definitions. First line, move to last insert structs, show forward, show LSP references. Go to toggle. Right. Why can I not jump to references? Anybody know the term for jump to definition? That's the jump to definition. Where did you go? Press G, stupid boy. I should be able to find references to this. Let's go to old school. So here we go. This is the function itself, and here we are calling it from within Cobra. So we've got not enough arguments, which is correct. Now what I've got here is add client payment data request, add client payment request data struct. And this is just all the data that we need that we're going to add as inputs. And we can see I've actually started doing a couple, customer ID, amount, first name, surname, email. Quite a lot, but that's just the way it is. I want to have, I've said this before, I want to have the ability to have a command line interface, an API to access this. Eventually what will happen is the CLI will just access the API, and the CLI that we push out will be a thin client. You know, at the moment, if someone unravels this, they'll be able to get access to all the code that works because the CLI is the actual code instead of the CLI calling the API. But we can do that later on. For now, I'm just playing. I'm just building up a project. So what I want to do is I want to create a new instance of a client payment request. So client payment request repository, and what I'm going to do is just come out of this for now, and then pass this into here. Let's save that. So if I do amount, what I should be able to do is just get the data amount, right? And write that in. Now, is this actually, then if I just hook this up, so that amount now is, instead of this, I don't know, to select that quickly. What would this be? This would be payment request amount. Now I've got this is where I wanted to be. Now I've got like the basics of the program, and I've got the very fundamentals of it. Everything else now is just kind of wiring it up. However, this is where mistakes can happen. Now I'm nowhere near in a position of correctness, right? There's a lot to do here still. Like for instance, initializing the database. Is this correct? I've no unit tests. I've got nothing in here. There's no context being passed in. It's being created here, which is just utter pointless because I can't cancel this process. None of this is using any kind of Go routines, so it's blocking as such. So there's a lot to do. However, I am in a position where if I build this now, just make sure I've got everything saved actually, because I'm a bugger for not saving the buffers. Right all. Yeah, that's fine. If I now go and run this, build green. Come on. Okay, so that built. So 1999. Initialized new route, which is great. Adding a client payment request. and the object that I'm coming back is nil. I'm not passing in at the moment a reference to the object, so there's no way for the request ID to be populated. So when I'm passing the data, when I'm echoing out the data back from that model, it ain't going to be there. So what I can do here is if I now pull from that data, from that table, I should have a record in there, yeah, for £19.99, which is absolutely cool. So wiring up the rest is just boring, basic nonsense. I am passing back a string, and what am I going to actually pass back? New client payment request, make. That just doesn't even make sense, Gary. There's an option here. I can mutate this by returning back a client. In fact, not even returning back, but actually mutating the payment request and adding in the request ID, which is going to be a GUID, which I'm going to have to pull in from like the Google library or whatever. And that will be a new one for every new insert, of course, which will get a new request ID. And that means that this payment request won't have a request ID because it's a copy, so it's not going to mutate it. I've got a couple of ways of doing this. I could actually pass the ID back as a value and then an error if something went wrong, or I could mutate the payment request. I am not a fan of mutation of passing in references because there are side effects. Sometimes there's something like send email, and that method wrongly mutates some data and has some weird kind of state change. But when you're coding, you just go ba 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 ba, send email, da 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 da, carry on, and things go wrong. You have no idea. You have to start diving into every frigging method, working out where in that journey did it change. It's where debugging helps because you can breakpoint on that property and then work out from a stack trace where it came from, but it's still a pain. Anywho, this can always be changed to a pointer reference. For now, let's start hooking this up. Da, 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 da. Let's delete this. We are looking for payment request first name. Payment request surname. First email, amount, customer ID. Payment request, customer ID. I'm just blindly allowing Copilot to help me out here, but I'll need to double check this. And realistically, what I would do, I know it's painful, but I would actually go through these one by one and just double check because there are so many mistakes made in mapping. It's unbelievable. Date requested, that needs to be automatic. I don't want that passed in. Let's format that buffer. Okay, you're not formatting for some reason. That normally means I've made a mistake. There we go. Okay. and then the request ID. So these two things, if I dump to the end, this should be automatic. So I'll just auto generate this, and this should be, yeah, auto generated. So we've got first name, surname, email, customer ID, action, and status. And we should be able to work out from this whether that data is being passed across. So that's pretty cool. What I can do is, let's have a look at this. Should just be able to jump to references, but it's not working at the moment and I ain't got the time or inclination to work out why. So here we go. We've got the request ID, and that should be auto generated and passed in. We've got the amount. At the moment, we've got first name, surname, and email passed in as flags. So let's wire them up. First name, surname, email, first name, surname, email, amount, and customer ID. Customer ID. I think that really should be up there with that. Let's see if this builds. Right, and let's do things like first name. I can't even spell my own name. Got passed across. Let's have a look if we've got any data. So, Gary Taylor, £19.99. Awesome. There's no status, action. Oh, our email. Yeah, I didn't even pass an email. That's why. Let's just see if that works. Go here. Let's go here. And let's go. What was it? I think it was just email. Operation error. Status code. Resource in use exception. Client payment pending. Oh, right. The operation error create table. That's because the initialization is happening every time. That's poor. We shouldn't be doing that. So what I need to do is hook up the check to see if we've been initialized. I don't know whether to create a table that's just got am I set up. You know, if the table setup system version 2 is there, if there's a table with that name, then that means that the database has been set up correctly. All the stuff that we need, because we might need 4 or 5 tables for this. I don't know yet. And if there's this setup version table or a settings table with a column in it called version, then I can check that and then I know that the system's intact. So I don't need to run the initialize method. I just don't know yet. Also, the logistics of running an initialize from the command line and from the UI is a bit risky. There would need to be some kind of security on that. You don't want just bad actors calling that endpoint and keep messing with it. But that's why I won't get the error there anyway. If I run this, have I now got an email address? Yeah, I have got email, request ID, date requested, first name, surname, and no customer ID, but I don't think I passed one. The customer ID, but I didn't actually pass one in the CLI, the command. Where are we going here? So what have we got? We got customer ID, and let's do something like something like that. I know that's not a GUID, but just add that. So that adds that, and let's see if that even goes through to the customer ID. It does. So there we go. We have email, request ID, customer ID, first name, surname. What we now need to do is wire up the status, the action, and the insert the correct date and time, and maybe put some kind of validation. Well, not maybe, definitely start putting some kind of validation around this. But I'm still in the process of wiring this up. Now, the idea of the status is that what we're going to do is going to be able to record the type of state that this payment request is in. Putting a payment request in will put it in this pending status. Another system will read it, process it, and then determine whether it's been successful or it failed. In other words, did I actually send a payment request off to the third party, like Stripe or whatever? And if it does, then the status will be updated. I'm also going to need a column to hold the ID or the request ID or the transaction ID of that request. More than likely, we won't be able to pass in ours, we'll get one back, or we'll get both. We'll be able to pass in our request ID to Stripe, and we will get a response ID back from them. And it's wise to save both, so then they can be cross-referenced. There's a term, matched up. There's a term for it. Awesome. So what we've got now is we have a system where we have got what are you doing? We have is go. Let's go to this. We're already here. We have a command for a new payment request. We have a data type that's being managed as the data type for the command, and then that's being sent to the repository pattern. Well, it's not a repository pattern, but a data store service for managing state. That's going to be cleaned up massively and maybe abstracted away. But either who, that's got the ability to add a payment. We look at this, the repository client payment request, add payment request. There's nothing in there that tightly couples to Mongo or to Cosmos or any other database. It's just a model that takes this. So that shape is pretty clean. That client payment request, add pending client payment requests, can be mutated and changed and updated in the future. You know, if we look where this repository is, we can quite easily have a version 2 repository, so package v2 repository, and we can lift and shift, migrate, green, blue, deploy, or whatever. We can easily update this in the future. The Cobra stuff, I know that's pretty statically typed, pretty solid. But Cobra is a very, very good CLI interface, and it doesn't take long to replace it with another one if we have to. On the whole, I am very happy. I want to start looking now at the GUIDs and also putting in the payment request. Just going to see if ChatGPT can help me out actually. Let's say if I comment this out, if I now go here and say populate date requested with current current date and time. Come on, ChatGPT. Come on. No. I was hoping it would just do it for me. So let's look that up. I actually don't know how to do that. Get current time. How to get the current time values in GoLang. So let's have a look at this. We've got the time as part of the standard library. We could do time now and format. That RFC33. Well, so we can pass in a format type. So let's do that. Let's insert time. Okay. Let's replace that. Time now string. I think that's very dangerous. I would like to pass in that format. So what did we have? We had format and then the type. So what was that? I'm losing my will. Now dot format. So where the hell's now come from? All right, didn't see that. Now equals time now. Okay. Okay. Now equals time dot now. I don't know why I'm in the habit of saving every single millisecond. It's like, oh, I've wrote a line. I've wrote a letter, a single character. I must now save. I must. And then I do things like deleting the whole damn project by mistake. When I was on holiday, I was just playing about and I was messing about learning something. I ended up deleting the whole system by mistake. So I don't want that format. I actually want this type of format. I can't remember what ISO thing it is, but it's 8063 or something like that. So I wonder if IntelliSense can help me out here. If I once again write this, because I just can't help myself. This is going to be repository pattern repos. I jump to definition for this. I should see a couple of different types. So what am I after? Actually, that's exactly what I want. Actually, I think. Yeah, that's got date and time with the zone and the offset. Do you know what? I am not a fan of storing offsets. I don't think it's valuable for me. I would rather just store the UTC time and then have the UI work it out. You know, I'm currently in New York, right? When I'm in England, it's +5 or whatever. But I'm not seeing that as a format. Kitchen. I suppose, yeah, that's, you know, is that real? Is that a proper type? I don't think it is. I think that's just something that's in this library. um, hmm, right. Is storing the offset a bad thing? It's not. It's not a bad thing. You know, storing the offset. At least we know what time zone they were in when they saved it, so we kind of know the locale, or at least geographically where they were within a couple of thousand feet, meters. So okay, I can live with that, right? I can live with it. Where this is a design choice where I would kind of make a statement to the team, you know, what the hell? What should we do here? What is our universal time format? So that's kind of something that we would want to put in a config. So move this to config. Because what we want is all of our systems to have the same type of format. We don't want a system that moves in time and, you know, is being processed by multiple microservices or event-driven architecture, and the bloody time format keeps changing as it moves between systems. You need a central approved system, which is why I always go for UTC. Everything's UTC. The operating systems are UTC. There's no GMT or British summertime stuff. It's just UTC time. That way, anyone who wants to read from it, it's the responsibility of the UI to convert it to the appropriate type. And in most cases, browsers do a damn good job. Anywho, let's see if I can build this now and then run an update and see if I got today's time. Oh, error. Now declared and not used. Well, I should have seen that within. Now declared and not used. Oh, it's because I'm ChatGPT. Help me out there. Do you know what? I'm only going to use that variable once, so I'm fine with it being enclosed there. You know, if I was going to do 30 things, I would have that as a variable so that the time is the same, but I'm only using it once. That's the thing. Kind of going off topic. In fact, before I go off topic, let me just run this through the bugger for this. Let me just finish what I'm doing. 5. Yeah, that was done. Let's do a request. That should have customer ID of 5, and we have got 12, 10, 58, and +1 for summertime. Summertime. And Fister Dawn. Okie dokie, so that's worked. We have now got a date request. Date requested, and that is cool. In my mind now, what I'm thinking about is when it's updated. For instance, you know, when we actually really start processing it, when it really goes to the payment system, Stripe, when Stripe actually really process it and maybe send us a webhook back. You know, the customer was requested to pay, they then paid it. parent webhook back. That's more of a history table. So maybe date requested should actually be in a history table and not within this pending client payment request table. That's where we start thinking about normalization, whiteboard it, think about the data that you got. But for now, I'm okay. I think once we move to the next step and we start processing it down the hill, I think this will change. I actually think we'll take the date requested out and move it into a history table and link this as a one-to-many from this request ID so that we can actually see in the history table date requested and all the common actions. Action here will store the actual current state. History will show the date of when the action was changed. I think that'd be a cool thing to do. Now what I've got to do is the final thing, which is the request ID. The request ID here is still hard coded. Okay, let's delete in here. Let's delete this. Let's insert payment request, request ID. Oh, there we go. The date requested worked pretty well, so let's delete that. Okay, so the request ID is coming in from that. If we now go into here, what we need is a new GUID. I don't think Go, I keep saying this, but I actually don't think Go has got GUIDs built in. GUID. Yeah, I've looked at this in the past. So let's come out of here. Let's go into here. So what is this? This isn't part of the standard CLI. This is GUIDs. So I'm not a fan of just randomly adding packages and just I want to make sure that they're okay, make sure that they're good, make sure that they're not official, because I suppose anyone can make it. But if we look at this, 20 stars, 9 forks. I know making a GUID is really simple, so maybe the library doesn't need that many commits or anything, but 15 commits. No, I don't think I want to include this into my project. Thank you very much. Release 1, 2023. But how many stars and how many, commits does a GUI generator need? Not a great deal. So in this scenario, should I steal this code, borrow this code, and actually just do it myself? So there's the hash table, there's a map, then it just generates it. So, the code itself isn't complicated. But do I actually want to? What would be better? Importing this as a package. Import as a package, add as a package, and manage it that way, or borrow this code and push it in. If I think ethically copying and pasting this code into my own code isn't right. Someone's put effort into this. So if we include it as a package, then as I keep saying package, if we include it as a module, then we're okay. If I copy and paste it into my own package, then I think I'm kind of breaking a rule there, you know. Um, Still not convinced that this library is the right one. GoLang GUID. Right, so is that a Microsoft GoIn IO package GUI? What's that? Right, so this is Microsoft's GoWin IO module. Not quite sure what this is, but one of the things it's got is a new GUID, and you can specify the version of the GUID as well. I think my CPU is probably dying because the font's going a bit fuzzy. Really need a streaming rig because everything's going a little bit slow. %. I'm hoping that this stream has been working, but we'll soon find out. Right, so as I'm not 100% sure if this stream is actually functioning, let's see if there's people in chat. Hello. So is the stream. So once again, there's more to this. You know, this is part of this Microsoft Win IO. So efficiencies for Win32 operations in Go. Yeah, of course, as the name suggests. So this isn't. I'm not importing this just so I can get access to a little GUI generator. So instead of wasting everybody's time and you watching me just Google for this, I'm going to see off stream what's the best, one to use. What do people actually, what do they like? Da, 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 da. Yeah, this was the Google one. So this is one I came across. It's Google, so therefore you got Google behind it. 361 folks, 5,000 stars, and there's quite a lot of code here for just a GUID generator, but 49 contributors and used at least by nearly 300,000 repositories, so projects or code bases. So I'm going to use this. It'd be nice if there was an example, go get, and then there's no example. Yeah, so here's just the documentation. So you just got a new GUID. Okie pokie. So let's pull that in. I'm going to add that to the project. That's click. And then what we're saying here, we had so you should be able to just do uuid.new and then to string more than likely. So let's give that a go. So imported and not used, well, that's fine. What is it? It was the request ID. No. Okay. Come on. So what I want to do is get rid of this and just use the GUID. Oh no, actually, the request ID, I want it to come from Cobra. Or do I? Because that means I'd have to do it from this CLI as well. I'm probably going to create a factory for the client payment request DTO. So instead of just instantiating one, there'll be a method for creating a new one, and that will have the ability to pass in some stuff. But and that will generate a new request ID. But for now, let's just pass in. Oh no, I'm right here. I'm forgetting where I am. I am in the CLI. Sorry, I thought I was in the repository. So am I right in thinking UID new to string? It feels right, kind of what I would have expected. ChatGPT's just filled that out for me, so there's no guarantee that's right. So let's make okay, that took a bit longer than usual. And we've got let's do 6677. And let's go and get the data. So we had 66 and 77, and we should have like a unique payment request ID. So 77 request ID, and that looks like a really good GUID. That looks right. And then if we look at there should be a 66 somewhere. 66, and that's got a nice GUID in it as well. Interesting. Items. Oh, what's the key on this? There's only, what I'm thinking is there's only 3 inputs. So if I just come out of this for a sec, if I run a few more in, 8, 9, 9. So there was 3, so there should be 5, if my maths are any good. Let's jump to the end. So I've got 5. Okay, yeah. I think we're indexing on request ID. I'm still not sure about that, whether I think we're right because request ID is the thing. I want to index and be able to quickly search customer ID as well, so I can find them records. But I'm nowhere near in a position to start worrying about optimization of seeking time for data. That, you know, once we get to 1 billion records and we're processing, like we're doing some really performance testing, we're pushing through 1 billion records a second, then I'll worry about the indexing. For now, I'm just trying to get the basic skeleton up and running. Right, I'm more than happy. What we've got now is the ability for on the command line to start pushing in some data, sending a request in, that gets stored into the database using a really nice repository pattern, and we've got this information now that we need. From here, from the command line, I can now issue a payment request for any amount for any customer. Awesome. I'm going to clean this up. There's still a bit more work to do. Errors, being able to pass in a context, being able to cancel the context. What happens if the database doesn't exist, isn't running? All that extra work that you put across the well, it's working thing. With any kind of programming, you get it working, but that's not shippable. I wouldn't release this as the final product. I would release this actually, or CI/CD and get the product owner to start looking at it. But it's not done. You need all the edge cases. There's not even a single unit test in sight. Mainly because there's really nothing to test, because this is all end-to-end saving data to a database. There's nothing complex here, not even any if statements or business logic. So I've not even started thinking about the status, which actually is something I should do. So the client payment request, if that is a new client payment request, then there should be a status. There we go, pending. And then there should be an action. Client payment request. There we go. So when we do this, we add a new item using the CLI. We're going to get it with this. Now, when I start doing this and I start using an API, I expose this via Fiber or whatever, G or whatever API framework I'm going to choose to use, I might forget to initialize the client payment request with a pending and an add client payment request action, which means that these two models are going to be different depending on which way they're called. So that's where we need a function to create a client payment request, which will instantiate the correct things like a request ID, a status, and action. So let's make sure I've saved all the buffers. So let's go to the to-do, improve arguments, add validation, start working on the data repository. Okay, let's go to the end of this. Delete in brackets. Done. Update DTO, we can save the correct model and data. Then let's write up some unit tests. Yeah. Let's undo that. And let's ChatGPT that correctly. Done. Okay, let's get the ball rolling. And what did I say? God, memory of a goldfish. What was I talking about before I started reading this? Which is why I went to the bloody to-do in the first place. Oh, that was it. Create a new function. So create a factory new for the payment request. I understand what that means. In fact, whilst we're here, let's go into the models. Let's just make one. Func. Let's start as a skeleton. Let's then return a new client payment request. I'm a bugger for this, actually. I'm a bugger for bloody doing this. That makes no sense because I would have to have a client payment request in order to then create a client payment request, right? So that makes absolutely no sense. That wouldn't work in anybody's money. So let's just delete that so that we can just call that. Null can't be used as client payment request. Well, I know that. Okay. We're getting to that time of day, are we? Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely getting to that part of the day. Set up request ID and date requested, status and action. Right, so I'm just doing this as a reminder. Of course, this isn't working. Shouldn't be called. Probably even can't be called actually. Yeah, it can be. New client payment request. This is a models file which will contain all the models that I'm working on for this repository system. So I'm happy-ish for this to all be in this same file for now. Doesn't matter if we move it later on. It's all part of the repository package. So what I'll do next time is I'll set this up so that we can create a proper model and it will instantiate it with the right values to begin with, so that it's not the caller that has to know how to set itself up. That's not the right way. As a programmer, I should just be able to use this package without any detailed knowledge of its inner guts and workings. I should just be able to call these methods, run, save, and it work correctly. However, in this scenario at the moment, I can call this method in the repository to save a record, but I could pass in any old nonsense as the status. There's not even a validation about the status or action. Are they known correct types? So that type of work needs to be done to clean it up to make this a really nice usable package. But like I said, I can do that at a later date. So I am pretty happy. We're in a scenario now where we have got the guts of this working. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for being here. Just obviously subscribe and like and all the usual stuff. But we'll come back to you now with some updates. Thank you.